March 15, 2024. Compass Cay, Bahamas. Mac Gallagher had coordinated over 300 stunts without losing a single actor. That perfect record was about to end in the most brutal way possible. The bull shark was supposed to be sedated. The safety cables were supposed to hold. Rico Martinez was supposed to surface with nothing more than dramatic footage for the movie that would cap Mac's 40-year career. Instead, Mac watched from the dive platform as 8 feet of pure predator tore through Rico's wetsuit like tissue paper. Blood clouded the crystal-clear water, the safety team froze, and Mac dove in without hesitation to save the brother of the woman whose death had haunted him for 23 years. What Mac pulled from those crimson waters wasn't just a mauled actor. It was the first piece of a revenge puzzle that someone had been building since 2001. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The first thing Mac noticed when he hauled Rico's bleeding body onto the dive platform wasn't the torn wetsuit or the deep gashes across his shoulder. It was Rico's eyes, cold, calculating, and completely free of shock. Most actors would be screaming, crying, or at minimum shaking from adrenaline after a shark attack. Rico Martinez was studying Mac's face with the intensity of a man checking items off a list. "Get the medic," Mac barked to his safety team, but his voice carried an edge that had nothing to do with the emergency. 23 years of coordinating stunts had taught him to read people under pressure, and Rico's reaction was all wrong. "Move your asses!" Rico's lips curved into what might have been a smile as the medic rushed over with a field kit. "Guess your perfect record's shot now, Mac." The words hit like ice water. Mac had never told anyone on this production about his streak. Hell, most of the crew didn't even know his real name. He'd been going by Mac Gallagher for the past 5 years, ever since the industry blogs started digging into old Hollywood accidents. Only someone who'd done serious research would know about his 300 stunt record. "How do you—" Mac started, but Rico cut him off. "The shark got my shoulder pretty good," Rico said loudly, playing to the crew gathering around them. "But Mac here dove right in after me. Real hero material." The sarcasm was subtle enough that only Mac caught it. Dr. Sarah Chen, the production medic, dropped to her knees beside Rico. "We need to get you to Nassau General immediately. These lacerations are deep, and with saltwater contamination—" "I'm fine," Rico interrupted, sitting up despite Chen's protests. His dark eyes never left Mac's face. "Sharks are just big fish with attitude problems. Right, Mac? Nothing you haven't dealt with before." Another chill ran down Mac's spine. The phrasing was too specific, too pointed. The last person who'd called sharks big fish with attitude problems had been Elena Vasquez, back in 2001 during the pre-production meetings for Deep Current. She'd used those exact words when Mac had briefed her on the underwater sequence that would kill her 3 weeks later. "Sir, you're losing a significant amount of blood," Chen insisted, "and I'm seeing signs of shock." "I said I'm fine." Rico's voice carried the authority of a $20 million leading man. He struggled to his feet, waving off the hands trying to steady him. "Just get me cleaned up. We're burning daylight, and this is supposed to be my final shot of the day." Mac stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You're not going back in that water. Since when do stunt coordinators give actors orders?" Rico's smile was razor-sharp now. "I've got a job to finish here." The words hung between them like a loaded gun. Mac's mind raced through possibilities, each one worse than the last. He pulled out his satellite phone and speed-dialed Jake Morrison, the film's director. "Jake, we've got a situation. The bull shark attacked Rico during the—" "What?" Jake's voice crackled through the speaker. "How the hell did that happen? I thought you had that fish drugged to the gills." Mac glanced at Rico, who was letting Chen bandage his shoulder while eavesdropping on every word. "That's what I'm trying to figure out." The marine biologist swore the sedation protocol was foolproof. "Where's Dr. Reeves now?" Mac scanned the dive boat. Dr. Marcus Reeves, the marine biologist they'd hired to handle the sharks, was nowhere to be seen. His equipment was still on deck, but the man himself had vanished. "Good question." "Find him," Jake ordered, "and shut down all water work until we know what went wrong. The last thing we need is insurance pulling our coverage over a safety incident." Mac ended the call and turned back to Rico, but the actor had disappeared. The blood-stained bandages lay abandoned on the platform. "Where did he go?" Mac demanded. Chen looked up, confused. He said he was going to his trailer to change clothes, but with those injuries he shouldn't be. Mac was already moving toward the tender that would take him back to the main production vessel. Something was wrong, had been wrong from the moment Rico hit the water. Maybe earlier than that. The more Mac thought about it, the more he realized how little he actually knew about the man he'd just pulled from a shark's jaws. Rico Martinez had appeared on the Hollywood scene 5 years ago, seemingly out of nowhere. No stage background, no film school credentials, no struggling actor stories, just raw talent, devastating good looks, and an uncanny ability to land roles in high-stakes action films. The kind of roles that required extensive stunt work, the kind of roles that would put him in Mac's orbit. Hey everyone, thanks for diving into this twisted tale with us. If you're getting those spine-tingling vibes about where this story is heading, smash that subscribe button right now. Tomorrow's chapter reveals exactly why Rico vanished, and trust me, you won't see it coming. Let me know in the comments if you're Team Mac, or if you think Rico's justified in whatever he's planning. This psychological thriller is just getting started. The tender's engine coughed to life as Mac gripped the wheel, his knuckles white against the sun-bleached plastic. The 20-minute ride back to the main production vessel should have given him time to process what had just happened. But his mind kept circling back to Rico's eyes, those calculating, predatory eyes that belonged on a hunter, not prey. The Bahamian sun beat down mercilessly, turning the boat's metal surfaces into branding irons. Mac barely noticed. He'd spent the better part of 3 decades working under hostile conditions, from the frozen lakes of Canada to the scorching deserts of Morocco. Physical discomfort was just background noise now, but the gnawing sensation in his gut, that was something else entirely. As Poseidon's dream came into view, Mac allowed himself a moment to appreciate what might be his final film set. The converted cargo vessel bristled with cranes, cameras, and enough technical equipment to launch a small satellite. Crew members moved across the deck like ants, each focused on their piece of the machine that turned raw footage into movie magic. After tonight, if he played his cards right, Mac would never have to see another film set again. The plan had been simple: finish this picture, collect his final paycheck, and disappear to the cabin in Montana he'd been paying off for the past 8 years. No more actors with death wishes. No more studio executives breathing down his neck about insurance premiums. No more waking up in cold sweats, reliving the night Elena Vasquez died in 30 feet of murky water while he watched helplessly from the surface. Mac tied off the tender and climbed aboard the main vessel, immediately spotting his assistant coordinator Tommy Chen, Dr. Chen's younger brother and one of the few people in the industry Mac trusted implicitly. Tommy was hunched over a tablet, frantically typing notes. "Please tell me you've got good news," Mac said. Tommy looked up, his usually cheerful expression clouded with concern. "Depends on your definition of good. The marine biologist, Dr. Reeves? He's gone. Packed up his gear and left without a word. His assistant says he got a phone call about 20 minutes ago and just bolted." "What kind of phone call?" "Family emergency, supposedly. But here's the weird part. I checked with the boat captain. Dr. Reeves didn't take the scheduled tender back to Nassau. He hired a private water taxi, paid cash." Mac felt the familiar weight of dread settling in his chest. In his experience, people who paid cash for emergency transportation were usually running from something, not toward it. Any idea who called him? None. But I did some digging on our shark situation. Tommy pulled up a video file on his tablet. Security footage from the dive platform, starting about 10 minutes before Rico went in the water. Mac watched the grainy footage, recognizing his own figure checking equipment while Rico suited up nearby. Everything looked normal until Tommy paused the video at the 3:47 mark. "Look at the timestamp, then watch Rico's hands." Mac squinted at the screen. Rico was adjusting his diving mask, but his other hand was near the equipment cases. The angle made it impossible to see exactly what he was doing, but the movement was deliberate, practiced. "You think he tampered with something?" "I think our lead actor knows a hell of a lot more about marine biology than he's letting on," Tommy said. "I ran the serial numbers on Dr. Reeves' sedation equipment. 3 of the drug canisters are missing. The pieces clicked together in Mac's mind like bullets sliding into a chamber. The shark attack hadn't been an accident, it had been orchestrated. But why would Rico deliberately put himself in harm's way? Unless… Tommy, I need you to do something for me, and I need you to do it quietly. Mac lowered his voice, glancing around to make sure they weren't being overheard. Run a background check on Rico Martinez. Deep background. Real name, family history, everything. How deep are we talking? 23 years deep. Tommy's expression shifted from confusion to understanding. Everyone in Mac's inner circle knew about Elena Vasquez, even if they never spoke her name aloud. She was the ghost that haunted every safety meeting, every equipment check, every time Mac made the call to proceed with a dangerous stunt. You think this is about her? Before Mac could answer, his satellite phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. Check your trailer. We need to talk. Mac stared at the message, his blood turning to ice water. His trailer was in the restricted crew section of the vessel. Security required keycard access. Rico shouldn't have been able to get anywhere near it, especially not in his condition. Boss? Tommy's voice seemed to come from a great distance. You look like you've seen a ghost. Mac pocketed the phone, his hand unconsciously moving to the scar on his left wrist, a permanent reminder of the night he'd nearly died trying to save Elena. Maybe I have. Keep working on that background check. And Tommy, if anything happens to me, you call the Coast Guard. Not security, not the director. Coast Guard. As Mac headed toward the crew quarters, the setting sun painted the sky the color of blood. Mac's trailer sat in the shadow of the ship's superstructure, its white aluminum walls gleaming like bone in the dying light. The narrow corridor leading to the crew quarters was empty. Most of the team was either at dinner or prepping equipment for tomorrow's shoot. Mac's footsteps echoed off the metal decking as he approached his door, each step feeling like a countdown to something he wasn't ready to face. The door was unlocked. Mac never left his door unlocked. He pushed it open slowly, his hand instinctively reaching for the dive knife he kept clipped to his belt. The small space was exactly as he'd left it that morning. Laptop closed on the fold-down desk, safety manuals stacked in precise piles, the half-empty bottle of bourbon tucked discreetly behind his equipment catalogs. But something was different. The air itself seemed charged, like the moment before lightning strikes. Then he saw it. Sitting on his pillow was a manila envelope, yellowed with age and tied with a faded red ribbon. Mac's breath caught in his throat. He knew that ribbon, had watched Elena Vasquez tie it around her dark hair during their safety briefings 2 decades ago. She'd always fidgeted with it when she was nervous, twirling the silk between her fingers while Mac explained the risks of underwater filming. With trembling hands, Mac picked up the envelope. His name was written across the front in Elena's distinctive handwriting, the same careful script that had signed her safety waivers 23 years ago. The postmark was impossible to read, but the envelope felt substantial, weighted with more than just paper. Inside, Mac found a collection of items that made his knees weak. First, a photograph. Elena and a young boy, maybe 13 years old, standing on a Miami beach. The boy had Elena's dark eyes and defiant chin, but there was something familiar about his bone structure, the way he carried himself. On the back, Elena had written, "Rico and me, summer 2000. He says he's going to be famous someday and take care of his big sister." I believe him. Rico, not Rico Martinez, Rico Vasquez. The second item was a letter, dated just 3 days before Elena's death. Mac, if you're reading this, something has gone wrong. I've been getting strange phone calls, people asking about the underwater sequence, questions that don't make sense. Someone doesn't want this stunt to go smoothly, but I can't figure out who or why. I'm scared, Mac. Not of the water or the sharks. I can handle those. I'm scared of the people making those calls. If something happens to me, please look after Rico. He's all the family I have left, and he's going to blame you. Don't let him destroy himself trying to get revenge for something that isn't your fault. There are forces at work here bigger than both of us. The real answers are in Miami, with Victor Kane. Find the truth, Mac. For Rico's sake, find the truth. Elena. Mac's vision blurred as he read the letter a second time, then a third. Elena had known. Somehow she'd known that her death wasn't going to be an accident, and she'd tried to warn him, but the letter had never reached him 23 years ago. which meant someone had intercepted it, hidden it, kept it as insurance or leverage or she was trying to save you, you know. Mac spun around to find Rico standing in the trailer's doorway, his shoulder professionally bandaged but his eyes burning with an intensity that made the small space feel suffocating. He'd changed into dark jeans and a black t-shirt that made him look older, harder, less like a movie star and more like the predator Mac had glimpsed in the water. "Rico Vasquez," Mac said quietly. It wasn't a question. "Enrique Vasquez, actually. Rico's just easier for Hollywood to pronounce." He stepped into the trailer and closed the door behind him, the click of the latch sounding final. "You're probably wondering how I got Elena's letter." Mac's grip tightened on the pages. The thought had crossed my mind. Victor Kane gave it to me, right before I put a bullet through his skull 3 months ago. The confession hung in the air like smoke. Mac processed the words, their implications, the casual way Rico had delivered them. "You killed him." "I executed him," Rico corrected, "after 23 years of hunting down everyone responsible for my sister's murder. Kane was the last name on my list. Well, second to last." Mac's hand moved toward his dive knife, but Rico shook his head. "I'm not here to kill you, Mac. Not yet. Elena's letter changed things, but I need to know something first." Rico's voice dropped to a whisper. "Who else knew about the safety modifications on that underwater rig? Because someone sabotaged it, and Elena figured it out too late to save herself." The trailer suddenly felt smaller, the walls pressing in. Max stared at the boy who'd grown into Elena's instrument of vengeance, realizing that his carefully planned retirement had just become a death sentence, unless they could uncover the truth Elena had died trying to expose. Mac forced himself to take a steady breath, his mind reeling from Rico's confession. 23 years of guilt had just shifted into something else entirely: confusion, anger, and a desperate need for answers that might finally make sense of Elena's death. "You can't just drop a bomb like that and expect me to—" "Expect you to what?" Rico interrupted, settling into the trailer's only chair like he owned the place. "Believe that your perfect safety record was a lie? That Elena died because someone wanted her dead, not because you screwed up?" Mac's hand still hovered near his dive knife, muscle memory from decades of dangerous situations. But Rico wasn't acting like a man planning immediate violence. He was acting like someone with a complicated agenda, and that made him infinitely more dangerous. "Victor Kane was Elena's agent," Mac said slowly, trying to process the information. "He was barely out of film school when she died. What could he possibly have known about the equipment sabotage, about the insurance money, about who really wanted Elena Vasquez out of the picture?" Rico's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. "Everything, Mac. Kane knew everything because he was the one who arranged it." The words hit like physical blows. Mac sank onto his narrow bunk, Elena's letter still clutched in his hands. "That's impossible. The investigation cleared everyone. Equipment failure, they said. Faulty pressure seal on the underwater housing. Faulty because someone made it faulty." Rico leaned forward, his intensity filling the small space. "Elena figured it out 3 days before filming. She started asking questions, making calls. That's when they decided she was too dangerous to keep alive." Mac's satellite phone buzzed insistently in his pocket, but he ignored it. The world outside this trailer had become irrelevant. "You're talking about murder. Premeditated, conspiracy-level murder. For what? Elena was talented, but she wasn't famous enough to—" "It wasn't about Elena." Rico's voice carried the weight of years spent unraveling lies. "It was about what Elena discovered, what she was going to expose once she finished this film." The phone buzzed again, then again. Mac finally pulled it out, glancing at the screen. Tommy was calling repeatedly, which meant trouble, real trouble. "Answer it," Rico said, "but put it on speaker." Mac hesitated, then swiped to accept the call. Tommy's voice crackled through the speaker, urgent and scared. "Mac, where the hell are you? Dr. Chen is dead. They found her body in the medical bay 20 minutes ago. Single gunshot to the head, execution style." The color drained from Mac's face. Dr. Sarah Chen, the young medic who'd treated Rico's wounds just hours ago. The woman who'd been worried about blood loss and shock, who'd insisted on proper medical protocols. "Any witnesses?" Mac managed to ask, his voice barely steady. "None. But here's the thing. Security footage shows her talking to someone in the corridor right before she died. They had their back to the camera, but based on height and build, Tommy's voice trailed off. Based on height and build, what? It looked like Rico Martinez. Mac's eyes snapped to Rico, who was studying his fingernails with casual interest. No surprise, no shock, no denial. Just the calm demeanor of someone who'd expected this conversation. Tommy, listen to me very carefully, Mac said, his training kicking in. I want you to lock down the crew quarters. Nobody in or out without... Rico reached over and ended the call, his movement so smooth and confident that Mac almost didn't realize what had happened until the phone screen went dark. Dr. Chen saw something she shouldn't have, Rico said conversationally. When she was cleaning my wounds, she noticed something interesting about the bite pattern, something that didn't quite match a bull shark attack. Mac's mouth went dry. What are you talking about? Shark attacks leave specific trauma signatures, depth of penetration, spacing between tooth marks, the way tissue tears. Dr. Chen had done research on shark attack victims during her residency in Florida. She knew what to look for. Rico rolled his shoulder experimentally, testing the bandages. She figured out that my wounds were self-inflicted, made with a surgical scalpel to mimic shark damage. The trailer felt like it was spinning. Mac gripped the edge of his bunk, trying to anchor himself to something solid. You faked the shark attack. I needed credibility. Needed you to see me as a victim instead of a threat. But Dr. Chen was going to blow my cover, so I had to improvise. Rico's expression remained eerily calm. Don't look so shocked, Mac. You've been improvising safety protocols your whole career. Sometimes people get hurt when the script goes off plan. Mac's phone started buzzing again, but this time it wasn't Tommy calling. The screen showed Jake Morrison, the director, probably wondering why his lead actor and stunt coordinator had both vanished after a medical emergency. Answer it, Rico commanded again. Tell him everything's fine. Tell him we're having a productive conversation about tomorrow's safety protocols. Mac's hand trembled as he reached for the phone, realizing that his carefully controlled world was collapsing around him. Rico wasn't just Elena's brother seeking revenge. He was something far more dangerous, a predator who'd spent decades learning to hunt in Hollywood's shadows, and Mac was completely alone with him.